Hello. That wasn't as smooth a beginning as I would like, but there you go. I haven't done a stream in such a long time. We'll see if anybody shows up. But yeah, I'm here. I thought I'd pop online and see what's going on. Yeah, I was trying, admittedly, this was a bit of an experiment, and I wasn't expecting it to automatically start the stream that was going out to YouTube. And let me know, by the way, in the chat if you can hear me or anything like that. I sort of did this somewhat haphazardly, and as a result, I don't really know much of the settings. That I was mostly dealing with OBS and trying to see if I could stream to YouTube and Twitch simultaneously. And it wanted me to start the stream, and so I did. I was planning on streaming anyway, but I really wanted to be able to go to Twitch at the same time. So forgive me for just a second while I see if I can maybe get the stream to Twitch going as well. It's not like I don't know that it really matters all that much. It's more out of an intellectual curiosity to see if I can get them going simultaneously. It kind of I'm not sure if the chat is actually even a live chat. I probably need to select. There we go. That's why I couldn't see your comments. New timeout lengths. Oh, okay, fine, whatever. Hello, playing PS5, but you're very good. That sounds like a fun afternoon or evening, whatever it might be. At any rate, it's good to see you all popping up. Forgive me while I take off my glasses for a second here. Oh, I can't see them at all that way. Jeez, this is what happens. Your warm-up video has been starting with 4-year-old daughters. Thanks for sharing. You're very welcome. It's a pleasure. Got to get in for the uncomfortable close-up there. There's got to be a way to make the chat so I can actually see it. Let's see if OBS will show me the chat. That would be amazing. It popped up this whole new window that I hadn't seen before. Okay, more. Switch account. No. This is okay. So that's like, I guess it's cool that in OBS it's showing me statistics, but that's sort of useless because what I really need is the chat. That's what I actually need to be able to see. So let's go back over here to the web browser. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the chat out. And that way I can see you a bit better here. That's much better. And yeah. We can do that so I can see everything quite nicely. Right on. Thank you for the videos. Love the baritone and baritone warms. You're very welcome, Lonnie. It's my pleasure. That is what they are there for. I'm glad that you're finding them useful. The baritoner stuff, don't be put off if I include the baritoner with the tenor ranges. Sometimes for the exercises that I'm covering in a given video, the difference in the videos is negligible, to say the least. There was one video I released where I did all the Fox separately, and one of the comments left on the baritoner videos was like, this is exactly the same as the tenor, it's just a half a step lower. And it was just because I was covering exercises where it was all just basically in the same place. And so now I'm just kind of including those sorts of videos as one. But anything that's specifically relating to the sort of differences, like when the differences between those Fox are, when I'm addressing those, then I'll always make sure to do them separately. Oh, LPR and reflux. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you're dealing with that. That's terrible. I mean, obviously, doctor's orders, first and foremost. If you've been able to see your physician about it, and they are, getting you on medication or something to that effect, then that would be your first line of defense. Aside from that, you're probably going to have to be a bit more strategic than perhaps some of your friends, in that You're going to have to keep an eye on things. A daily practice will absolutely be your friend, however modest that might be. Just making sure that you're doing a bit of daily vocalizations. And I mean specifically vocalizations, so that you're working on vowel alignment, apogeo breath management, registration events, if that's applicable to you, and staying really on top of your game, because in those periods where the symptoms of the reflux become too much and you can't sing that day, it will be important to be able to take vocal rest on those days. So yeah, be a bit more strategic, plan ahead, stay on your daily game. You're very welcome. Who's that? Michael. My pleasure. I do what I can to help. That's the whole point of all this. I think we're coming up on 14 or some odd hundred videos, something like that. There's a lot on the channel, and I'm just trying to cover the angles as best I can, help when questions come up, keep on delivering exercises, patterns, and sequences of scales and exercises that will help folks align their voices and get the most out of their singing voices. You're very welcome. Lonnie, that half a step makes a big difference. I'm a true baritone, but sing a lot of rock songs in a higher range, and those warm-ups get me where I need to be. Fantastic. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I love your warm-ups. Any tips for trans when I'm trying to lower my range? I've gotten to C below middle C, but I want to improve. Think light and bright as you descend. Being lighter and brighter on the descending scale patterns, is a good way to go about it. So, if you want to be lower, rather than trying to press into it, think light and bright. If you try to push into those lower pitches, you will quite likely just run out of space down there. So yeah, light and bright. Hello, found the biggest help for vocals is getting over insecurities. When you feel insecure, you tend to clam up and try to make your voice quieter, and therefore you break and strain. Yeah, well spoken, well said. I mean, it's a destructive cycle, I think is the phrase, right? You have like positive cycles where things kind of build on one another, and as a vocalist, if you start to get a little bit tense, if you start to pull back, if you start to clam up, and especially if you start to disengage your engagement, then your voice is going to start to rely more on vocal fold engagement instead of the airflow, and then it's kind of all downhill from there. You start to crack, you start to break, and especially if you have a high part that's coming up, and you're likely to miss those pitches and have other things happen, and it just becomes challenging at best. So yeah, getting over insecurities. But I would suggest to you that in thinking about it like that, if that works for you, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, then think about what that means. Get over insecurities. Be specific. Is it standing on a stage? Is it the repertoire? Is it the people that you're making music with? What exactly can you identify that's making you feel that way? If it's something inside of you, then where does that come from? What are the roots of it? How can you address it outside of your singing practice so that you can manage it more effectively when it comes time to sing and use your voice? Breaking things down into small, digestible pieces will make it much easier to address them, and then I think you'll start to see some really, really good results. I'm not suggesting that you need to, do that necessarily. You haven't said as much, but you brought it up, so I thought I'd talk about it a little bit. Thank you. Been using warm-ups for recent college editions. Well, break a leg. I wish you all the best. and pop back in onto the channel sometime and let us know how it all goes. I'm going to have a, hold on a second here. I tend to overcompress due to worrying about my neighbors hearing me. Well, that's terrible. I found that pressing on my headphones to make my room volume quieter to myself helps to lean into my resonance. Well, be careful with that. If you're wearing headphones during your practice sessions, I mean, that is a strategy, and people do that frequently, and I've had teachers do that with me. I myself don't do it very frequently, either for my own singing or for others. Just be careful. If you're relying entirely on the headphones, in other words, if you've got closed back or circumaural, something like that, headphones, they close entirely over your ear and they're sealed, then you are only getting what you are hearing in those cans, and that can differ greatly from what you might hear if you took them off. So just be conscious of what you're listening to. Maybe do a recording once in a while, and if you can practice at times of day where you think your neighbors are gone, so you don't have to wear headphones, that would be a good, well-rounded practice as well. Thank you for your videos. I'm a baritone. I like singing rock pop songs, but can reach tenor levels quite well. Want to reach Freddie Mercury, Sam Ryder. What should I do? Work on your registration event. Work on your cricothyroid dominant singing voice. If you haven't done that already, then that would suggest that if you are in fact a baritone, I've never heard you, so I can only take your word on that. If you haven't been given that designation by a singing instructor after a fair amount of vowel alignment, then it's somewhat questionable. But if you haven't done that already, that will be the key. Because especially with Freddie Mercury, he's well over the secondo passaggio, and it's pretty evident in listening to him. So that will be the thing to do. And if you haven't worked on that yet, but you say you're reaching tenor levels quite well, that would suggest that you're belting those pitches or squeezing out the high notes, even if it doesn't sound squeezed. It's a way of using the musculature, and that will ultimately prevent you from singing to the tessitura that Freddie Mercury does. So you'll have to work on the registration event. Point being that if you've been belting in the past, it's quite likely that when you first approach it, you may have it misplaced. It might not be in the most efficient point of transition, and that will take a little bit of practice. But, music's a lifetime thing. These are the things that we work on. These are the things we do. So that's all there is to it, really. A good apagio breath management practice would be helpful as well. I don't like headphones either. I prefer to just record myself and play it back. Yep, that's a great way to go about it too. Hello, Jeff. Thank you so much for your videos. Just wanted to pop in and ask, what would you suggest practicing for opera singing? Depends on the opera, maybe? Depends on where you're at with your own vocal practice. My videos are taken from bel canto practices. They're the same vowel alignment practices, the same sequences, the same scales and things like that opera and classical singers sing. They're just as relevant to those of us who sing popular music, but if you wish to be an opera singer, then you could certainly start by using what's on my channel. You might also find yourself an opera teacher who is working in those disciplines that can help you to further refine your vocal delivery. Opera singers, the operatic voice is the sort of natural conclusion to vocal technique. It isn't something that we do, it's where we arrive at increasing levels of precision and efficiency. That isn't to say it's like better or something like that than anything else. I wouldn't suggest that at all. It's just that if you continue to work on your arpeggio breath management, if you continue to work on vowel alignment, releasing soft tissue engagement in your singing, then you will continue to approach that style. But a teacher would be very helpful if that's something you can do. How do you know exactly how long to warm up? And do other exercises as well. I've been doing your tenor warm-up exercises and watching your agility resonance and singing over the break videos. It's really subjective. If you're singing, okay, so I say this a lot, but I'll just say it again. If you warm up every day, in other words, if you're vocalizing, if you're using my warm-ups every day, those are technical exercises. They're not, you can use them to warm up, but they're not just warm-ups. It's about aligning your voice. And the more that you do of that, the less time it'll take you as you get more proficient with the whole practice. This is also really it's very much related to apagio breath management. So as your engagement, your apagio practice, and your vowel alignment practices and your registration event practices become more and more precise, it will take you less time to be warmed up. Now, if it's 7 o'clock in the morning and you've just woken up and rolled out of bed, you're going to need to wake up your body a little bit. Sometimes it's not that we need to warm up our voices, it's we need to just get our bodies energized. At any rate, you'll have to be the judge of that. You'll have to be the judge of how your repertoire is treating you. And if you find that you're just not ready to tackle your repertoire at the end of your warm-up process, rather than just continuing on, maybe pick specific elements from your repertoire that require more attention and focus, and then warm up with those specific elements. So for example, like if it had a big skip of some kind, right, a major sixth, then you might do a warm-up that has major sixths so that you're really, really on point for those things. Reading along here. How do you know exactly how long to warm? Oh, I read that one. Thank you so much for the answer. You're very welcome. My pleasure. Came to your channel to warm up my voice and saw you were live. Just wanted to thank you for all your help. My voice has improved tenfold since finding your channel. That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate the feedback. I'm glad that you found the channel. Use it in good health. That is what it's here for. Yeah, I just decided to pop online today. I wanted to experiment a little bit and see if I could stream to YouTube and Twitch. The Twitch thing failed. I might try and turn it on again. Just hold on a second here. I think this should do it. It keeps on saying it's failing to start. I don't know why, but you know, that's life. I'll have to look at the settings again, unless I just have the wrong Twitch screen on and it's actually streaming someplace. I don't know. How detrimental is not warming up your voice? I mean, the process of singing will kind of get you warmed up too. It's not going to kill you, but it also depends on what you're doing with your voice. Depends on the state of affairs. Do you have a cold? Are you tired? Do you have acid reflux? Like there was an earlier question about that. Any of those things can mean that when you go to sing, you use your voice differently than you might if you were warmed up. How habitual of a daily practice do you have? Because again, like the warm-ups on my channel, sure, you can use them to warm up and get ready to sing and stuff like that. That's what they're there for. But I just call them warm-ups. It's about aligning your voice. That's really what's happening. And the more well-aligned you are in general, the more of a daily practice that you have, the less time you'll need. Should you still warm up a little bit? Yeah, I think you should. I mean, I've been singing for a really long time, and I am a case study of one as I give you this anecdotal note. But I'm a case study of one, and I haven't yet felt like I don't need to warm up any longer. That could be my own self-confidence, but it doesn't take a lot of time to warm. It doesn't take me a lot of time to warm up, and I feel better for having done so. And it's not just about your voice. It's about your mind, your frame of mind, and how you're coming to the singing practice too. Do crooners like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin sing through the break? That's a really good question. I'm afraid I'm going to punt, to use the familiar American football terminology on this one, because I have of course listened to Frank Sinatra, and I have of course listened to Dean Martin, but I don't feel like I've listened to enough of a representative sample recently to say one way or the other. I just don't know. I suspect not, just reflecting on what I've heard of Sinatra in the past. But I would want to go through a pretty fair degree of tunes from either one or both of them. And also, if not sit at the piano, then have reference pitches so that I knew the specific pitches that they're singing, to be able to say, like, well, that's probably such and at such and such a point in their range, and so on and so forth. But off the top of my head, I don't know, I'm afraid. Sorry, can't be more helpful with that. Any tips on how to sustain those high notes without straining? It's kind of hard to stay there without switching to belt. Yeah, what's going to happen, if you think about singing a high note like ringing a bell, where you just strike it, and then it's somehow automatically maintained, then you're going to end up straining your voice, because if you're just maintaining your flow of air, it's effectively decreasing, because if you're using the same amount of musculature, the volume of air is lessening. Like, you have less air at the end of a high note than you do at the beginning. And if you've only just maintained your engagement, then because of the lesser volume, the volume is going to go down, the pressure goes down, and so your voice has to somehow stay on that pitch, and it's going to make up for it with muscle tension. So the fast hit here is sing the high note as if you're trying to do a crescendo. Sing it like you're trying to sing it louder and louder and louder over time. Even if that happens, that's fine too. It'll just sound like you're moving forward into the song, and that's fine. But you have to sing it so that the subglottic air pressure, the air support below the voice, remains consistent. And the best way to sort of trick ourselves into doing this is to sing it as if you're increasing in volume over time. That's the quick hit way of doing it. I mean, a little bit easier said than done, quite frankly. Also, you can, practice, like you find this exercise, there's one pattern you'll find on my channel a lot, where you have that alternating note on the top of that scale. That's a trick. Like that exercise is a trick to help you sustain the air column over what effectively is like a long held note at the top of that pattern. So, and usually when I introduce that exercise in the warm-up videos, I'll say, try to sing the alternating pitches, the trill at the top, with a little crescendo. Try to get a little bit louder over time. And that is your practice for what you're asking about. It's not in every video by any stretch of the imagination, but it's in quite a lot of them. Hey Jeff, good to see you live. I do Twitch. Hit me up on your Discord if you need help. Thank you. I very, very much appreciate that. I've had it work before. I've just missed a step or two in setting it up in OBS, that's all. But I appreciate that very much. Love your videos. Thank you. And greetings from Italy. Greetings from California. It's not, what time is it over there? It's about 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. Not too late. Getting on for the evening. Have a lovely night. Hi, Pam from London. Hello, Pam. I do your exercises nearly every day, and it's definitely improved my voice. I always need to start with the gentle warm-up first. If I don't, I can feel the difference. Thanks. You're very welcome, Pam. Thank you for popping in. I truly appreciate it. Yeah, I enjoy the gentle warm-ups too. And don't be put off. I know that a lot of people had a little bit of challenges with the most recent one that came out this past weekend with the chords. Don't be put off by that. That's harmony singing practice in disguise, because each of the exercises starts on a different chord tone. It starts on the tonic for the first one, the third of the chord for the second, and then the fifth of the chord for the third one. And that's all good practice for harmony singing too. What would you say is the most challenging technique or aspect of singing? That's a really interesting question. I feel like we could talk just about that. I mean, first of all, okay, so here is the thing. Whatever I say is unique to me. And if it happens to be appropriate for you as well, it is purely coincidental. Because the thing of it is that we will each come to the practice of making music with our own advantages, our own challenges, and my challenges are just as valid for me as your challenges are for you. Sometimes they will align, and that is very convenient if we're working together, and sometimes they will not. And this is where, hopefully, if you are fortunate enough to work with a teacher, they are skilled in recognizing these things and can be flexible. For me, it has really truly been the performance anxiety aspect of what I do with music. It is a part of my everyday music making stuff. No matter what I do with music, performance anxiety is present, and it will shift in order to try to hold me back in remarkably fluid and flexible ways. So technique, musical understanding, things like that, for me, that's what it's been. A lot of people, in particular with singing, and here's another somewhat oblique, obtuse is a better word, obtuse way of looking at challenges in singing, is the lack of consensus of terminology. So you have to talk to any singing instructor or any other vocalist for that matter, or anyone who's talking about voice, and try to arrive at context so that you can understand what they're saying. One person's mixed voice is not another's. One person's secondo passaggio is another's break, is another's, I think it's M2 or it's CVT is the method, I think, but M2 is the break or the secondo passaggio. Coming to an understanding, it's very frustrating, and far more renowned singing instructors than I have tried to change the terminology, tried to codify the terminology, and failed. So when you get information about singing, and then there's the predominance of, and please take this in the kindest way possible, the people who happen to have voices but haven't studied vocal technique telling vocalists how they're meant to use their voices. And that can sound kind of harsh, but I'm fond of saying that if you buy an audio interface, it doesn't automatically make you an engineer. It makes you an audio interface owner. If I buy I don't know why I'm thinking about a bouzouki, but if I bought a bouzouki, which is an instrument, if I bought a bouzouki, it wouldn't make me a bouzouki player. It would make me a bouzouki owner. Or a trumpet would be a better example. If I buy a trumpet, I'm not a trumpet player. I just happen to own a trumpet. But many people, we all have voices. And I think that too frequently, I guess, and again, I'm speaking from my own experience here, being in the studio where people had the best of intentions, but weren't really qualified to give advice on the how of getting what they wanted to hear out of my voice. They could certainly offer their opinion. I'd like to hear it sound like this. But it's frequently phrased differently than that. And that isn't always the most effective way to get what you're trying to get from a vocalist. So there's very little, if any, consensus in singing pedagogy, and the language of it makes it much more difficult than it need be. And yeah, that's, I don't know what you were expecting. I suspect it was more of a technical kind of a thing, but all of that's relative to the individual. One of the things, it was hard for me to switch to Apagio breath management when I realized I wasn't doing it. It took me a couple years to feel like I was really connecting with it. And my hope, that's part of the things that I hope in my channel, is to make it so that other people don't have to do that you can get to it sooner in your process, and that way it'll be easier for you. Thank you for answering your question. Love your videos. I've been learning your exercises on piano and found for some reason I'm more accurate when actually doing your exercises on piano. Wonderful. Carry on. That's fantastic. Started learning to sing in September at 50. Wanted a new challenge. Had great help from your videos. Rather as practice and warm up. Keep up the good work. Awesome. Well done. Keep going. Jeff, I was just vocalizing coming into work. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Her? I think you meant to put an extra E on there. But yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for chiming in. Drive safe. Hopefully, unless you were like commuting on the tube or on the BART or something like that, singing on your headphones amongst strangers, that would be cool too. Jeff, hope you're doing well. Long-time sub here and always enjoyed your work. Just want to say hi. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Appreciate the subscription. Really helps the channel. I intend to keep up the good work. Thank you. Sri Lanka. I've been watching your videos from some time, starting to practice using your warm-ups. You have showed me the registration event technique. Fantastic. Awesome. Keep going. Welcome to you from California. Just beginner, want to train my voice to a tenor. Well, keep practicing, keep going. Keep it up. Since I've come to the end of my screen here, I'm going to see if I can quickly do something to put settings. Yeah, see, okay, so see if we can get this. Let's see if I can do that. I'm gonna pop back over to the screen in a second. I really like to see if I can get this to work here. Still no joy, it looks like. Well, there you have it, folks. I'll have to look at the settings and see. After years of wondering what my vocal FOC was, I've come to the conclusion that vocal classification was invented before mics and therefore was based on the loudest range of your voice. Not exactly. The vocal FOCs are a German system, and they came up with them to function as a shorthand, so opera vocalists and the directors of operas could they would be able to find the right vocalist for the role that they had to fill. It was an easier way for the directors to find the right vocalist for a role, and for opera singers to be able to find roles that they were going to probably be successful at. And so, but you're touching on something that I tend to agree with, which is that if you're singing, especially if you're singing popular music, it doesn't really matter that much. It's more about how you use your voice and learning to use your instrument than trying to apply a label. So yeah, I mean, that being said, I think it's nice to learn about one's voice and to come to some understandings about it. Too frequently, however, we want to come to those conclusions too soon in the process. And then we start to try to sing to the attributes of the Fock that we have self-identified as. And then we miss out on really getting optimized singing. So I try to encourage folks to just wait and wait and wait on that classification. Getting cardio plus vocalizing, nice. I feel like with mics, vocal ranges don't really matter as much as they used to, considering how flexible. Yeah, I mean, microphones are certainly a part of this, but it's more about how the voice operates, in my opinion. Thank you for the quality warm-ups. Helps my band a lot. Wonderful. Do you have any tips, recommendations when finding one's own voice? Take your time. Yeah, take your time. And then, if you're doing covers especially, do some things to, I mean, you don't have to do them in performance, but when you're practicing, switch the keys around, switch the tempos around, change things up a little bit so that you are exploring your way of approaching the song. If you can, write your own music. That would be helpful too. Keep vocalizing. That's going to help you find the most efficient, effective use of your voice, and that will help you find your style as well. Yeah, singing high notes without undue effort. Well, it depends on how you define effort. If you mean effort in terms of like vocal strain, absolutely. But that effort then is placed someplace else, mostly the core of the body. That's most of what my channel is about. And the short way of addressing your question would be to say to develop good vowel alignment, registration, event practice, and apogeo breath management. But easier said than done. That's, however, what my channel is about helping vocalists be efficient and effective, learning about registration events, and then singing beyond them so that you get those high notes. I'm on exercise 29 of High Note Bootcamp. Hard for me to tell if I'm singing the correct pitches in the exercises. Is this important? Will I get... I mean, I'm afraid I don't remember that exercise immediately off the top of my head. Yeah, and of course I recognize your name because we've corresponded in the past. I don't remember that exercise. I'm sorry to say. Some of them, if you're singing those exercises with like a tuner app on your phone, so you've got like the exercise playing on a laptop, and you've got a tuner app when you're watching the tuner thing, that is not necessary and probably not helpful. But you don't, it depends more on how you're using your voice. And if you're so far off that you're just, you're so off pitch that you're using your voice in a way that isn't constructive, then that's a problem. But if you're just kind of glistening between the pitches to a certain extent, or you can hear that it's a little bit on the flat side or something like that, that's not the hugest issue, so long as you are using your voice in the correct way. In time, with a good apogeo practice and continuing to practice, the intonation will come. You might also have to do a bit of ear training as well. Do you think of the mic sound system as fixing problems with the voice, or simply amplifying the natural sounds one makes? Ultimately, it is a capture and amplification system, if you ask me. This microphone doesn't, I don't have anything on this mic aside from a bit of compression to make sure that I can go from speaking to singing without like having a dramatic change in volume. But, I mean, think about it this way. Nowadays, that pitch correction can be done live, and sound reinforcement can do just about everything live in the moment that you can do in a recording studio. Would they have adopted those if people didn't think about microphones that way? They certainly do. And it's done all the time. And, you know, you can find like the before and after videos on YouTube. I just watched one recently there's a channel called Wings of Pegasus. And he was doing, he did like a Bon Jovi, like from the rock and roll, the induction of John Bon Jovi, or the Bon Jovi the band, into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he did like this is the version they released on YouTube, and this is the version that was actually being sung at the show, and you can hear how much different it was. But I suppose that's actually, they didn't correct it live in the moment there. At any rate, if you think about a microphone as a system by which to amplify your voice and put you on an equal footing with the rest of the instrumentation, then you're probably never going to go wrong. If you depend on it for pitch correction or tuning in terms of frequency response and things like that, then you'll have good nights and bad nights. When I'm singing live to a microphone, or in the studio for that matter, I mostly just try to ignore it, while still thinking about proximity effect and plosives, and changes in volume that I might be singing with. But I mostly try to sing as if it's just not there. And if you don't rely on EQs and all that other stuff, then you'll always be fine. And if it's available, then maybe it'll be useful. But yeah, I mostly think about it as capture and amplification systems. Richard Miller will class me as a bass baritone in terms of passage position, but I sing what I want to sing as long as I'm not straining. There you go. I also wanted to ask if one should do the same vocal exercises each day. I just talked about this in a questions from comments video. I think that's going to come out in a week or two. And basically, yes and no. Like, I mean, certainly you want to practice it so that you become good at them, but equally, if you only do the same thing over and over again, then you might not be challenging yourself to learn and address the things that you aren't doing because they're not in that particular warm-up. The idea being that you might have chosen that warm-up because it was mostly playing to your strengths, and you want to make sure that you're not just playing to your strengths, that you're also choosing things that are challenging. I feel like over time my tone timbre has changed here and there. Is there a methodology for practicing a clear tone? Balance of airflow and vocal fold engagement. The methodology, in short, would be moving from dynamic air pressure exercises, so like, to more melismatic exercises. The short notes help to balance out vocal fold engagement and airflow. The melismatic one's more like singing. It's more like singing a song. And that's roughly the methodology that I follow and apply in the videos. That's what I'm doing a lot in the videos. Cool. Well, it seems like we've come to a stopping point here, so I'm going to sign off. This was just meant to be a short experiment, and I thought I'd answer a few questions and just chit-chat a little bit while I was here. I'm going to do this more frequently again, but I definitely want to sort out the whole, like, multiple stream thing. Just have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. It's great to see you pop up. Thank you, SwizzyJ, that is a cool user ID, for popping in here. And yeah, great to chat with you all. Have a great day, everyone. Okay? Bye.